The process started long before the process was announced. And there's a degree of giving legitimacy to something that is fundamentally illegitimate by knocking on a door that we know is already locked. They know where we are. We're the biggest airline in Europe. We've the strongest balance sheet in Europe. They've been moved to comment on us more than once. And there's an expectation that we will be invited into the process, much as we were in Italy. There was an open process in Italy with several published stages. In the case of Germany, you have essentially on the same day 3 simultaneous announcements: Air Berlin, Lufthansa and the government announcing what the future will be, including the economy minister saying we don't really have to worry about competition concerns. So, you know, there's a degree of legitimising a process that is illegitimate. I don't even know who you'd approach at this stage.
But the normal process is you get invited. So if you just contrast it with the exact same time, the way the process is being run in Italy, the administrator in any bankruptcy will invite interested parties to come and bid for assets of the business. That's the normal process running at the exact same time in Italy that hasn't been followed in Germany. And then if you take the statements that have been made around it, it is clearly not an open data room where people could come in and say, well, I'm interested in this. It's clearly, you know, open to Lufthansa only. Look, we've made our objections in Brussels and Berlin, and they've both been responded to, and that now we'll start that process. Are we that bothered? We're mostly bothered. I think if you go back to when we would have been talking about IAG buying Aer Lingus, we're bothered because there was such vehemence about Ryanair blocking Ryanair buying anyone. So it seems to be there's one rule for Ryanair, one rule for others, which we're saying in principle, no, make it one rule for all, and there's rules around state aid, which we're saying, no, everyone should follow the same rule book. More important though, we'll just say, look, we're just going to grow organically. What we've done in Germany has worked, and that will continue to work well. So on principle, we will continue to object. On principle, we'll push it as far as we can. As David said, you're going to end up with Lufthansa with a lot of distractions. You know, Lufthansa is currently has had 14 strikes in the past 5 years. They're fighting with their pilots, fighting with their cabin crew, they're fighting with the GDS and the travel agents. They are fighting the Gulf guys. They are, you know, acquiring businesses. So look, a distracted Lufthansa taking on a lot in some ways is going to be helpful for us and our ongoing organic growth in Germany. I think if we are complaining and we're putting forward our case, that is us trying to prevent it being done in the way that it looks like it's just going to be done, which we call a stitch up, which is there you go, Lufthansa, take whatever you want, and the German government will pick up the bad bits.
I think the keeping open of Tegel is probably a bigger issue, or as big an issue in Germany. If Tegel remains open, that's a lot of capacity that German airports will have to now fight to fill. If someone moves into Tegel, maybe Hanover loses, and so on and so forth. I think that's as big an issue as Air Berlin.